The video game industry is dying in front of our very eyes. If it wasn't enough to be completely and totally discouraged on the industry at large, just take a look at a vast majority of the AAA games being released. The PS5 Pro debacle, $700 for a system that can't even play physical media. We don't know how big the hard drive is, and it has minuscule improvements, and everybody's looking forward to new releases. Like, what's the speculation now? The GTA 6, is it going to run 4K 60? Yeah, no, probably not. What's going to be the point of that? And that's supposed to bolster us into a next-gen future? That console right there, and moves like this from Xbox, 650, more people getting axed. The PC market, it's gonna boom. But then I also seen a post that's like, basically, you know, the PC gaming space is being held up by one 61-year-old fat guy and his good ethics. It's like the moment, you know, Gay Ben passes into the halls of Valhalla, shuffles off this mortal coil, everything is going to go to crap. But while we still have him here, while we still have a viable alternative to this console mundanity, got to take advantage of that. But it's not so much an alternative at this point in time. I would love to see the numbers. I don't necessarily know the percentage, but how many people are now just primarily PC gamers? They might have a console. They might have, I think probably the most popular. This is just me simply speculating. Like, if you're any form of gamer, if you have any technical expertise, I would think the most common gaming setup for the modern gamer is a PC and a Switch. You might have somebody with a PS5 or hell, even a PS4 and a Switch, but their primary place to play the AAA game that's coming out, I'm thinking like it really could be a coin toss if it's PC or if it's going to be PS5 or Xbox. But moving forward into the future, I can only see the market share of PC growing because Microsoft seems to, within the next 5 years. Is there going to be, because we can pretty much definitively say the way that, you know, PlayStation and Sony is going, there will be a PS6, okay? What it looks like, how many people are going to be enthusiastic about a $1,000 console, don't know that for sure, but that's the way that they're trending. How many people are going to be picking that up, as opposed to, is there going to be a Series Y, Z? Is there going to be a 10th generation of console? That's what I want to know. Because Microsoft, man, they might be looking at cutting their losses when it comes to their gaming space, because they have thrown a lot of money out there, okay? And let's get into that, because this is definitely playing into these massive layoffs that they've had this year. It's mostly cutting down redundancies, because they bought so many gigantic companies in the past few years, and they have not seen any returns on that. Does anybody think Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, like releasing an Indiana Jones off the back of the Indiana Jones 5 movie flopping, like, not a great look, and given the fact that it's from Bethesda and its big presentation was performed by some side shave having weirdo with a rainbow flag Bethesda logo t-shirt, doesn't really inspire confidence in it. And then also backing that up by saying, yeah, Indiana Jones is not really about gunplay, so we're gonna try to minimize that as much as possible. It's like, yeah, I understand, you know, you want to prioritize whip mechanics because you freaks can only think about one thing and try to extrapolate that into everything else you do. But Indy has a pistol. It's kind of a part of his arsenal, just saying. But Microsoft is laying off around 650 employees in its gaming division today being September 12th, okay? The latest cuts come months after Microsoft laid off 1,900 Activision Blizzard and Xbox employees in the closure of several game studios. Arcane Austin. They tried to close down Tango Gameworks, but thankfully that got, you know, picked up by a Korean developer and another studio as well. I forget, but yeah, there were a few different. There's been several studios this year that have been shut down or now on the brink of shutting down. Looking at you, Firewalk Studios over there on the Sony side of life. But Xbox chief Phil Spencer announced the layoffs to employees in an internal memo this morning, seen by The Verge. The cuts are related to Activision Blizzard deal. Yeah, getting rid of redundancies, right? Yeah, makes clear in his email that no games, devices, or experiences are being canceled, and no studios are being closed as part of the layoffs today. That's kind of amazing too. You can fire 650 people and nothing's really going to be affected. How much bloat do you have over there in Microsoft? Like, that's crazy. As part of aligning our post-acquisition team structure and managing our business, we have made the decision to eliminate approximately 650 roles across Microsoft Gaming, mostly corporate and supporting functions, to organize our business for long-term successes. Microsoft completed its $68.7 $1.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard in October. Yeah, following months of battles with regulators in the UK and the US. Spencer's memo, it really doesn't much matter, man, but here's the thing, okay? Like, Black Ops 6, Blops is going to make a ton of money this year. It's probably going to be the best-selling game of the year. So yeah, Activision is going to be pulling their side of the equation on this. And thanks to, oh boy, that stiff competition that Concord was promising, it's like Overwatch 2 is still going to be the king of the hero shooter genre. But is that going to be enough to recoup $68.7 billion in a timely manner? And what is Bethesda doing? Oh, right. Introducing non-binary characters into Elder Scrolls. Excited for ES6? Yeah, no, nobody is, because they're still going to be working on that decrepit engine that everybody dunked on when Starfield came out a year ago. Who's even playing that at this point in time? But Microsoft, I don't think that they're done with layoffs. They might be done with layoffs for at least a couple of months, maybe throughout the end of the year, but they'll find more redundancies and they'll find more studios to shut down because Game Pass is working. Game Pass might be working maybe a little bit too efficiently for Xbox, but we'll have to see what their hardware considerations look like moving forward. But the entire staff, so another studio is closed down. Yes, a beloved game publisher, Annapurna Interactive, has reportedly resigned. So another company shut down. Annapurna Interactive, the game company famous for publishing indie hits like Stray, Outer Wilds. Oh, wow. Like, I've heard of those two. Gorogoa. Okay, Neon White, What Remains of Edith Finch, and many more may not be with the same company anymore. Bloomberg reports that the entire staff at Annapurna Interactive, the gaming division of Megan Ellison's Annapurna, has resigned after failing to convince Ellison to let them spin off its games division into a new company. All 25 members of the Annapurna Interactive team collectively resigned. This was one of the hardest decisions we have had to make, and did not take this action lightly. Kind of a strange move that you'd be making right now, given how many people have been fired, how many studios have been closed. You just decide to take your shit and leave. Very, very strange move here, because if you think that the wider industry is going to have your back, I got some news for you. But let's continue here. Okay, last week, The Hollywood Reporter said that Gary, and the co-heads of Annapurna Interactive, Deborah Mars and Nathan Vella, would be leaving. The Hollywood Reporter also reported that Annapurna planned to integrate its in-house gaming ops and the rest of Annapurna's division, which included film, TV, and theater. Hector Sanchez, that's not a real person. That's a fake Mexican name, who most recently headed up the Unreal Engine game business at Epic Games, and is an Annapurna Interactive co-founder, announced last month that he would be president of Interactive at the new media at Annapurna. But I wonder where they go from here, because like I said before, and like you guys obviously know as well, studios have been closing, jobs have been reduced. If you go indie, well, that would be fantastic, because that space seems to be wide open, and as long as you don't decide to delve into the woker side of life, you've got nothing but opportunity at your feet. Just, well, hey, take a look at 2 of the 3 biggest games releases here. Pal World being the sterling example of, yeah, you can have a small team and make a game that is played by millions of people. Or you can be like Helldivers 2, have an unmitigated success until your corporate overlords come in and start to meddle with stuff. Your corporate overlords that actually don't give a shit about you at all whatsoever. Because here you have a Chris Deering, former Sony executive, says a video game industry layoffs not the result of corporate greed. Which, yeah, I gotta, maybe, potentially. Like, the way that you think about corporate greed is just, fat cats want to make as much money as possible. But corporate greed in the sense of wanting to own the entire industry, I guess you can kind of go with that definition, if you will. But then, yeah, it just quickly pivots to how much these people that tout all of the specific inclusive projects that they're trying to do, how wonderfully accepting they are, what they actually think of you. It suggests that laid off employees drive an Uber or go to the beach. They don't care about you. You're just a number to them. Former Sony executive Chris Deering, who was the president of Sony Computer Entertainment Europe, shared that he doesn't believe the recent layoffs across various video game developers are a result of corporate greed. On top of that, he suggested laid off employees find ways to make ends meet by driving Uber or going to the beach. Go down with metal detectors? What is it, 1984? An interview with My Perfect Console with Simon Parkin podcast. Cool. Deering was asked by Parkin, I'm sure you are aware that it's a tough year for workers in the gaming industry, around 20,000 layoffs in the last year or so. I think it's fair to say that there's a bit of frustration with the video game executives at Microsoft at Sony, wherever they are. They've been closing smaller studios in order to funnel those resources into larger projects. Yeah, and specifically with some of the Microsoft layoffs, they have just been turned. Some of those closed and restructured studios have been made into Call of Duty support. Like, I think that's how Arcane Austin got folded into the mix. But anyways, it seems that sort of prioritizing shareholders over nourishing a creative, diverse medium. Parkin continued, now, I think you probably have more understanding than most of us about some of the pressures that those decision makers are under, but I suppose, how would you answer that accusation that some of these individuals are putting greed in front of creativity? Deering responded, well, there's always going to be some greedy people and exploitative people, but there's a passion in the games industry that goes beyond just business and people, and it's a way of life, and I don't think that the console people in particular are that greedy. Maybe Nintendo was, and some ways, but they had a great relationship with their end users. Yo, man, you worked at Sony and you're gonna say that Nintendo's greedy. Okay. What happened is you had the pandemic. People are sequestered in the living room or their bedroom, and the industry took off in a huge way. You know, them video games are getting real popular, guys. And it got oversaturated, and it's going through a deflationary period, just like consoles did when they're having those long turnaround times, minimum order quantities. You know, none of those things that were actually a problem back when the industry was booming and isn't being held together by duct tape and indie developers. It's painful. I don't think it's greed. I think it's over exuberance that was kindled and fueled by the knock-on effect of the pandemic. I can't believe we're in 2024 and people are still blaming the pandemic on industries failing. It's kind of wild. Always tried to minimize the speed with which we added staff because I always knew that there would be a cycle of I didn't want to end up having the same problems that Sony did with electronics. We never really did, and of course, recently a big layoff, Sony Studios in London. I think it's probably very painful for the managers, but I don't think having skills in this area is going to be a lifetime of poverty or a limitation. It's still where the action is. It's like the pandemic, but now you're going to have to figure out how to get through it, drive an Uber or whatever, go off to find a cheap place to live and go live in a van down by the beach for the year and go to the beach for a year. What the, yo, man, these are the people running your video game company. I've talked about this, especially at the creative level. When you industrialize this stuff, when big business starts to creep in, you lose your creativity. You lose what it means to have passion. You simply turn projects into numbers and item lines on quarterly reports. Gaming in general is the largest entertainment medium in the world, and it's not even close. It's like 4 or 5 times bigger than Hollywood. And it's gotten to a point where now, especially at the AAA space, it's become not too big to fail, but too big to succeed. Case in point, take a look at Ubisoft. If Sony was smart, they wouldn't be looking at, how to make Nikocado Alloy Kato into the next Sony mascot. You'd be looking around there at the success of Astrobot, okay? If studios want to take a look at how to be successful, you just focus in on what Team Asobi has just recently done, and yeah, they want to integrate the past, the PlayStation. Yeah, why are there so many guest character bots? To inspire younger gamers to play the classics. Everything that I see in regards to the Astrobot game makes me really want to play the Astrobot game. And nothing that I see coming out of the AAA game space makes me want to go play a AAA game. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.